Hi everyone, we're going to be discussing Nate's workout routine in this video. The still that you are seeing in the video is going to stay the same. There's not an active moving video or anything like that you guys are going to witness. What is going to happen is that I'm going to talk over this, and I would advise you that scroll down and start reading the exact routine. I've put information about the daily warm-up that he has to do. I've got the training split, the overview of it. I've got details on the exercise selection for each workout day, sets, reps, etc. What I'm going to discuss in this video is stuff that how we're going to proceed. So let me just get to it. I'm going to start by saying that there are certain days that we have which are for strength training, and all the other days are like for more of a bodybuilding type approach. So Nate's goal, and again this routine is for Nate. I would not advise you to directly adapt it to. I would not advise you to lift it and just follow it blindly. I think that there are a lot of principles defining this routine, and you guys can make use of that and try and like mix and match certain things within your workout routine to make it work for your goals. So Nate's goals are to get very strong on the deadlift, and as far as maximal strength goes, then deadlift is the only lift that Nate cares about and that I care about for Nate. All the other things that we do is either to support the deadlift in terms of like adding on muscle to your back and legs, to his back and legs, because long term that is what is going to help keep the strength going. You can't always, like, you guys have seen videos of guys who are, well, I don't want to sidetrack this conversation too much, but to put it simply, it's important to put on certain amount of muscle mass in your back and legs if you want to keep lifting heavy weights on the squat or the deadlift, or even as a matter of fact for the bench press as well. So any big lift, if you want to get strong at, you got to keep like these types of muscles. You want to attack them with a certain amount of hypertrophy. In Nate's case, he wants a big back as well, so it's like the goal overlaps. So we're trying to train deadlifts for maximum strength, and everything else is more or less hypertrophy. But squats are given a separate preference because while the squat is not something that Nate is training to specifically get super strong on like he is for the deadlift, it is important to have another lift in the sense that my approach to squat training is going to be that we do what is required for squats because we're trying to make the deadlift better. So as much as the squat can help the deadlift, we want to push that along. With that being said, as you can see, Nate has 8 workouts, and then and within those 8 workouts there'll probably be like days off. But the way these 8 workouts are designed, you can pretty much go back to back and do all 8 days in a row, then take a day or 2 off and then start again. So there's no requirement that like day 3 or day 4 has to be an off. For example, I mean, you can do all 8 back to back and it's fine. But including day 4 and 5, like day 4 has got squats and triceps, day 5 has legs. It's put like that for a reason. We want to like sort of pre-exhaust legs before we actually hit legs. So squats, which is the big movement which we're trying to train somewhat heavily, that was going to be done first, and then they're going to have leg day, and then after legs you've got 3 workouts, so there's enough time for the legs to like recover or whatever and not be a hindrance to deadlifts when deadlifts roll around. With all that being said, our purpose of training the squat right now is for Nate to get good in this technique, because his technique needs improvement, and apart from that we want to start stacking up weight and getting to a reasonably good number on that. And within 8 days, if for example a trainee, this can happen with a lot of trainees which I've in my experience, where you can have like one workout and then like many workouts which are like light, because all the hypertrophy days don't have any exact heavy lifting. So with the first workout, which is our maximal strength day for deadlifts for Nate, this is a day where he's going to lift a lot of heavy weight, and then there's no actual heavy weight lifting being done all the other workouts till we like roll around. And that type of a big gap that you have, like say 9-10 days with no heavy lifting being done, sometimes when you come back to it for a heavy day, your body might not be prepared, and that sense of preparedness, if it's off, your training will suffer for that day, and we don't want that. So we want like somewhat of a heavy day thrown in where his body gets used to lifting certain weights. Like for example, just to be specific, Nate's deadlifts right now are in the upper 300s, closing in on 400, and his squats are in like the upper 200s. So it's enough of the difference isn't that much that that I would consider squats to be a light type movement. So it's enough for keeping it on day 4 is enough for us to have like an interruption to like that bodybuilding training that is going on with all that rep work for everything else. So let's get to it. So first day is going to be deadlifts. Oh wait, let me start first by saying that he has a daily warm-up of 10 to 20 minutes on the Stairmaster or cross trainers, then some daily, and then some dynamic stretches or activation drills or mobility work if he feels like it. I think most of us are, if you've been doing this for a while, and Nate has been doing this for a while, we're fairly mobile, so there's no need to like specifically address it. But every so often you might come across a day where you're not feeling it, and you want to just like iron out the kinks or whatever, and you want to like make everything good. So in that case you should probably throw in some mobility work or activation drills or whatever. And then the third exercise that he's going to do as part of his warm-up is going to be the lunge and press, where he does a forward lunge with 2 dumbbells held up to his shoulder height, and then in the bottom position of the lunge, the forward lunge, he's going to press it overhead, then bring it back down, and then take the next step forward, then repeat the process. So this is the daily warm-up for every single workout. It doesn't matter if it's a leg day or not a leg day or lower body day or whatever, it's the same thing. And if for example you have a Nate, I'm addressing both you guys as well as Nate in this, but if let's say for example you're having a lower body day, you might want to be more strict with the lunge and press, just because there's carryover between that and the actual heavy lifting that, or whatever lifting that you might be doing for your legs. But as far as upper body days goes, you don't necessarily need to be so strict that the knee of the rear leg almost touches the floor or something like that. You can be like somewhat mediocre, somewhat like medium with your strictness. Anyway, the training split, 8 workouts like I said: deadlifts, then back and biceps, then chest all by itself, then squats and triceps, then legs, back, shoulders and biceps, and then triceps at the end. So the frequency of back is twice, plus of course deadlifts. So you can count, if you want to count deadlifts as like a back type day, then you can have 3 days for back, but otherwise in terms of like specifically attacking the back, we have 2 days. Biceps and triceps, there are also frequencies twice. Legs is once, squats is once, and then chest and shoulders is once. Also, excuse me, my dog is going to probably bark a lot, so I apologize for that in advance. Maximal strength training day on deadlifts. Nate's going to be working up to, right now we're going to be doing Eric Troy's consolidation cycle. So what that's going to involve is, and you guys should check out the article, don't think that this explanation is enough to wrap up and summarize his entire article. There's a whole article, and it's very detailed with explanations of how you can make it work for yourself. But what Nate's going to be doing, or what I'm hoping for Nate to get to, is right now he's working with 365 pounds, and he has been able to do 2 sets of 3 reps with it. So that's 6 total reps. We want to break that. So what we're going to do is Nate's going to take 365 for 8 to 10 singles in week 1, and then week 2 is going to be 8 to 10 doubles. So the overall volume is going to jump, but in terms of like the timing, overall time that it's going to take is the same, because turning a single into a double is pretty easy. And after that he's going to be doing 5 to 7 sets of triples. So in that sense the work capacity is going to go up considerably. And then week 4 we're going to probably move to like 4 rep sets, just for 1 or 2 sets, and we're going to begin Eric Troy's SDT progression for a little while. I want to do a small stint with it, and then probably after that we'll get to like either something involving heavy doubles, triple singles, and then he'll probably break 405 around that time. So this is what it's going to look like. By the end of the day, Nate and I go back and forth with feedback every week, every workout actually. So everything that I'm listing right now, the entire workout routine is what we are planning, is what it looks like in theory. But once we'll really come to know what's going on once Nate is actually training and it's no longer in theory and it's being done as in practice. So we're going to wait for that, and in that train of thought, it might very well lead to that fact that everything gets changed because something's just not working out on the floor. In terms of like maybe you want to change exercises or set rep scheme parameters, whatever. It might very well lead to that, or even like loading. Like normally I keep the weight same for certain exercises across sets and might have to bump it up. We'll see, but things might change. So what you guys are witnessing, what you guys are seeing right now, is the theoretical routine that he's supposed to start. So deadlifts, he's got Eric Troy's consolidation cycle starting, and then we'll see what goes. I'm hoping that he's able to get 2 sets of 4 at the end of 4 weeks, and with 365, which is a big PR for him. And then from that we're going to probably be able to keep adding weight till we get 365 for 5 or 6 reps, and plus more work that we build on, because each workout is going to build on the other. That's how SDT progression works. You guys should check out that article as well. I might link it. I will actually link it in the video in the description below. Next workout is back and biceps. So a lot of what we do right now is going to involve pre-exhaustion work before each muscle group. And the reason why we want to do this pre-exhaustion work is because we want to exhaust and really beat the hell out of the muscle before we get to the work sets. So that way we don't have to stack on a lot of weight for the work sets. Because the last thing we need is to have like for example, plate loaded machine rows, and I have like 5 warm-up sets for it, and then you got to keep stacking up weight and plates to it. We want to try to do the most amount of work in the most efficient manner for the best results. So right now pre-exhaustion work is what we're doing, but I keep everything on the table, and that means that it might very well be that we'll do pre-exhaustion work for 6 weeks, and then after 6 weeks, for maybe a week or two, we'll take away pre-exhaustion work. The exact workout in terms of exercise selection will stay the same, but there'll be no pre-exhaustion. So in that case, Nate will be able to take heavier weight. It might also be that in the work sets, after the pre-exhaustion work, during the work sets, right now I've listed, for example, 4 sets of 5 to 12 reps. We might even take it up to 20 reps. We might even rest pause it. So I love rest pause sets. I love supersets, cluster sets, drop sets, all of this stuff. So all the advanced stuff that is there, everything, there's nothing that's taken off the table. Everything is possible. It just depends on how we're going to program it in based on what actually happens. So this is the type of stuff that, like, this is the type of intuitive stuff that I need to discuss with Nate based on how Nate is feeling. For example, plate loaded machine rows might be one of those exercises that in the beginning Nate feels that whatever weight we started with conservatively, because we always start conservatively and then we build on it. So what you can expect on a macro level is that, say for example, the back and bicep workout, you might finish this workout in the beginning, week 1, in say an hour and a half, and then subsequently it's going to grow because of the weight that we add. So you might need more rest between sets or whatever, or we might even add in more exercises. But in terms of time frame and work done, keeping everything, most things constant, you're going to go from a 1.5 hour workout to, like, say 2.5 hours, and at that stage is going to be unmanageable and you're going to have to, like, scale it down. So we bring it back down at that time. So it's what we expect to see happen is it starts off at, like, a little bit, like, it starts off like a baby, grows into a big adult, and then we break it down into a baby again, like, if that makes sense. So in pre-exhaustion, he's got V-bar lat pull downs first, then he's got chest supported low to high cable rows. So basically for low to high cable rows and high to low cable rows, you just take your the adjustable bench, take it to the cross trainer, functional cross trainer, or cable crossover, whatever you have. Not actually a cable crossover, but the cables are on either end facing each other. You want them to face you and be next to each other. So dual cable machine or something like that. Dual cable sometimes could also mean that it's the same stack of weights, but there are 2 cables to it. That's not what I mean. What I mean is that there are, like, 2 independent weight stacks close together. So you want something like that. So you drag your adjustable bench to that. You put on the highest incline. You sit facing it so that your chest and your stomach and the front of your body is braced against the bench, and then you grab the handles for either high to low or low to high, and then you do your rows. So this is what I mean when I write this down. And he's got V-bar lat pull downs, chest supported high to low rows, low to high cable rows, and then we start with our main output movements, if that's what you want to call them. Actually, this is a lot of the phrases that I use are going to be stuff that Eric Troy, Joe Bennett, who's the hypertrophy coach, as well as John Meadows use. So in Nate's output movement for back training for this day is going to be plate loaded machine rows and then 1 arm lat pull downs. And that's pretty much it. 2 of these 4 sets of each. Both these exercises have to be done, and then he's going to move on to biceps. For biceps is pre-exhaustion of cable curls, and so cable curls. Well, our biceps can sometimes get overworked. So what we're doing is, on one of the days his pre-exhaustion is going to be cable curls, and the other day for biceps he's going to be doing very heavy negatives. So he's going to load up a lot of weight, and he's going to, well, cheat or whatever you want to call it, is the curl up. On the way down, on the negative, he has to focus heavily on, like, extending it in terms of time. So he wants to build for, like, for example, if he can do a negative for like 15-20 seconds, there's nothing like it. And just doing 2 or 3 negatives like that can make a big difference in terms of pre-exhaustion. At the end of the day, you guys have to remember that how much of a pump or whatever you feel is not really important. It's good if you do feel a pump, but you want to feel the muscle moving, your target muscle. You do want to feel it, and sometimes in the beginning you might not, and it might take like a few weeks as you dial in your quality of execution, as well as you dial in up the weight that you're using, because you might keep stacking on a little bit of weight or a little bit of reps or maybe more sets and get more work done. And as your work that you're doing for that exercise builds, and plus your quality of reps improves, you might feel that the target muscle being hit more at that stage. So you have to give it that room, that feedback. That's why strength training and bodybuilding have like very different parameters, in the sense that with strength training we expect feedback to be relatively fast sometimes, and unless you're making a correction. If your form is, or your technique of execution is a certain thing and then you change it, you can expect like a lag. But otherwise it's pretty fast. Like when Nate's gonna do 10 singles with 365, which is the first time he's done that much volume with 365. He's used to doing 2 sets of 3 reps, which is 6 reps. So now he's gone from 6 reps to 10 reps, and then after that he's going to do the second week he's going to make it into doubles. So maybe he'll go from 10 reps to 8 doubles because he's not able to do 9 and 10 or whatever. So it's as he's gone from like 6 to 10 to 16. So you know right off the bat that yeah, I'm lifting more, my output is more, I'm getting stronger. You don't know how much exactly, and that's fine. A lot of things there are a lot of variables for that, but you know that you're getting stronger right off the bat. With bodybuilding, you got to wait, you got to make sure your nutrition is dialed in. Then there's of course going to be difference in like genetics between how my body reacts to something and how your body reacts, and how long I take and how long you take or whatever. And then you might want to, again, like I said, like you might feel the target muscle being worked 3-4 weeks down the line. So there's going to be like a bigger lag when it comes to results showing from bodybuilding. It might very well be, for example, that pre-exhaustion work doesn't suit Nate. Like on the real, please understand, this is academic. I don't believe that's going to happen at all. But let's say worst case scenario, pre-exhaustion doesn't work, so we got to change things up. We won't come to know right off the bat. We will definitely know by 6 to 8 weeks down the line. So you got to give that type of breathing room before you start analyzing your results. So he's going to do cable curls, and then he's going to do machine bicep curls, and then standing alternate up dumbbell curls. So this is back and bicep workout. I'm not going to actually read out each and every single workout. What I'm going to do is I'm going to discuss certain principles. Like for example, with his chest day, and chest is all by itself, that means that we're going to beat it to death. There's a lot of pre-exhaustion work involved in it, and then he's got a lot of like big work sets, and there's supersets that are there at the end, which are like supposed to be finishers. Let's say we're taking inclined barbell bench press. So right now the way I've designed it is that you have a barbell movement, then you have a dumbbell movement, and then you have plate loaded machine movement. And it need not necessarily be in this sequence. At the end of the day, sequencing matters. You have to have some sort of justification for doing something, but you can keep changing. We have all these rules, you know, like keep your heavy lifting for the beginning of the week, and the volume work should be done towards the end and stuff like that. But every so often you want to change things up, and sometimes these rules have to be discarded. So they're not really rules, they're like guidelines, and they're guidelines that you have the option to really adhere to or keep it like really loose. So right now we got inclined barbell bench press because that way we can you tend to think that it's easier to load and go up in weight in terms of like weight that you're using on a barbell than it is for dumbbell. So we're keeping that principle in mind. That's why barbell is first. But it might very well end up being that you want to do a machine press first. So we've done the pre-exhaustion work, and then we do the machine press to like further add to that, and plus we can afford to go a little heavy without worrying too much. Not that Nate said the lifting weights that it would really cause him to worry about getting injured. I mean, it does happen, but it's highly unlikely. So we can do machine work first, then we can do barbell work, and then we can do dumbbell work at the end, because that means that dumbbells are going to be the lightest, since you're hitting it after all this heavy work, and you're not going to be able to use a lot of weight. So that could also be a way we can flip this around. And it need not be that we keep it the way it is, the way I've listed it right now forever. It might be that we start off like this, and then like maybe 8 or 10 weeks down the line we switch it up, when Nate says that look, I can't add any more weight to barbell bench press. No matter how many times we're switching up the set rep scheme, it's just not happening, and it's becoming more and more difficult. I don't want to be really going balls to the wall on all 3 sets like this. I want to change it. So we might change it up at that time. But these are just examples that I'm talking about. In Nate's workout, he's got inclined bench first, and then he's got flat, and then he's got plate loaded machine presses. And then so like I said, the workout is right there in front of you. You can read it, and it's pretty straightforward. The next workout is squats and triceps. We're doing, like I said, Nate has to work on his technique. So right now for back squats, we're doing Eric Troy's honeymoon period progression. You guys have to read the article as well. So now I realize I have to link like 3 articles of Eric's to this video. But his honeymoon period progression is going to be pretty straightforward. I'll just give you a brief overview of it. And again, you guys, this is not going to do justice to the article. The article is much more in depth, and it gives a big, it gives a lot of detail on how you can make it work for you. So this is how I'm going to be making it work for Nate. Like I said, we're not really pushing back squats to the with the intensity that we're doing deadlifts, or the aggressiveness for progress that we want on deadlifts. So with back squats, what Nate is going to be doing is he's going to be having he's going to be keeping a guideline of 3 to 4 reps or 3 to 5 reps per set, and he's going to be going up in weight really slowly, like in the sense small increments, very small increments. Nate even has micro loading plates. So we're going to start, say for example, week 1 we take 135 pounds, and I mentioned before that Nate's current max on squats is in the low, not really 300, but like closing in on 300. So what we're going to do is, we don't want to get, we know that at that stage technique is failing, and we know that in general technique isn't good. It starts deteriorating over a period of time. Nate has to focus on pushing his knees out. He's got a high bar stance like me, so he has to like really focus on a slow negative, stuff like that. So anyway, Nate knows his points that he has to improve on, and we're not going to do that by sticking to the maximal and weights right now. We have a little bit of breathing room where we can change things up. So he's going to take, say for example, 135, and he'll start off with 135 pounds, and he'll do 135, 140, 145, 150, just going up in 5 pounds, and he might do like 15-20 sets in total, and that will be workout 1. So say he starts with 135 and say he ends at 225, and then the next week when he comes in, he might start at, instead of starting at 135, he'll start 155 and probably end at like 255, and then the third week he'll start at 175 or 185, and then he'll go up to maybe 285. And as you can see, by that stage he is closing in on his current max, but it's going to be with better technique, and it's only a 3 or 4 week slump, so to say, or a 3 or 4 week build up, because only week 1 is really easy, and even week 1 is not that easy. That towards the end is going to get difficult, because your weights are going to be stacking up closer to your max, plus you're going to be doing a lot of volume. So say the overall, what I keeps for honeymoon period progression, rep range is usually very variable, and like for example, beginners who are learning new techniques for the first time, they're going to keep the reps really low. So they're going to keep 1 to 3 rep sets, and they're going to do like 20-30 sets of deadlifts. In Nate's case, he already knows how to squat. We're just improving on something. So, and we don't want to push squats the way we're pushing deadlifts. That's why in the beginning he's going to take 3 to 4 reps as the range. So it's the upper end of the range that we're focusing on. Maybe even 5 reps if you want to, but that's what we're doing. And then maybe by week 3 we might be confident, and we might drop that 5 down to 3, and then maybe by week 6 it will become singles or whatever, and then you might really be able to work up to something big, and there might be a new PR as well. All this is possible. It has happened to many trainees of mine. I see no reason why Nate is not going to have that same thing happen to him. Then after squats we have tricep pre-exhaustion work, and then main tricep output movements. Next day is going to be quads, hams and calves, and we're going to be attacking this like a lot like how John Meadows sets up his training routines. And you can see all of his videos on his YouTube channel. They're very insightful. But what I found is that similar to what he's experienced, when you do leg curls or you do hamstring work directly before any type of squat, it feels really nice, because it's like a little cushion that you have beneath your butt. So with that being said, lying leg curls or like seated leg curls, I'm not sure which machine Nate has, but you want to get a leg curl variation thrown in there. We do that first, and it's going to be like a lot of high reps, more on the 15 rep range. I've written 6 to 15 as a guideline, but it's probably going to be pushed up. In the beginning we're going to take lightweight and do more reps, but not to failure anywhere, and then we're going to slowly build it up. So like I said earlier, that you have a workout that might start off at 1.5 hours for the total time for the workout to get done, and then it might grow into 2.5 hours. The reason why that happens is because certain times you hit certain exercises, and all the sets of that exercise might be to failure, or there might be all drop sets or SPOS sets, or a mixture of the two, and then that might take up a lot of time. I mean, imagine if I make you do lying leg curls, and instead of 3 sets I just make you do 1 set, and it's a total of 50 reps, and in between you're going to have like many drop sets, and you're going to have some of those might be like partial, some of those might be static holds, some of them might be negatives, like very heavily focused negatives, and you can see that this might just end up becoming like a 5-minute set or a 3-minute set, and the recovery time that you might need to just breathe after that might be a good 10 minutes, and then you can say that just 1 set cost you 15 minutes of time. So you can see how all this might stack up and change. This is just an example of one exercise. You've got multiple exercises like this in the same routine, so it might end up being that on one day you have only 4 sets and 4 exercises, so that's 1 set per exercise, and each of those sets is a ball busting set, and that's going to take you like 2.5 hours just to get done with it. And because we have to also include warm up time and getting ready to do something like that mentally, etc. Like strength training, when you're approaching strength training, you want to keep the idea is not to focus on target muscle groups. Nobody goes into the deadlift thinking that, oh, I want to feel it in my back. You will go into the deadlift thinking that with cues of how to execute the movement. With leg curls, for example, in contrast to that, you also have cues to execute the movement. You want to make sure that you're braced properly. You want to make sure that your toes are pointing a certain direction, your ankles are in a certain way. You don't want to get a cramp in your hamstring, stuff like that. You might have these general cues, but at the end of the day, you want to feel it in your hamstring. So you have that as an important point in your mind that you're focusing on throughout your set for every single rep, and strength training doesn't have that. So your workout might really grow, and it might take a lot of time to finish each one in the end, and then we have to scale it back and bring it down to something like this. So lying leg curls, and he's got split squats, And now with split squats, for a long time I used to make this mistake, and I mentioned this in the in couples video as well, couples workout routine video, that I made it about balance as a limiting factor, where I would have an SSB or a barbell on my back and I'd be doing split squats, or even heavy dumbbells in each hand, a heavy dumbbell in each hand, sorry, and that's how stability would become a limiting factor. But what you can do is you can just drag your bench to the power cage or whatever, and hold onto the power cage with one hand, and then you do your split squat with a heavy dumbbell in one hand and you're holding the cage in the other, and that way stability is no longer the limiting factor. I saw this in John Meadows' video, that's how I got the idea, and it was fantastic. Mountain Dog really knows his stuff, no doubt. And with split squats, one of the things cues that I have is that if say you're going to be squatting on your left leg, so that's the leg that's in front, and the right leg is going to be up on the bench behind. You want to hold the dumbbell in your left hand and you want to hold the cage with your right. That way, like the weight and the pivoting point is like close together. You don't want to keep it where you're working your left leg but the dumbbell is in your right hand, so your body is sort of like rotating just to stabilize itself. We don't want those types of problems. With light weights it might not matter, but once the weight starts stacking up, it will make a difference. Then he's got another leg curl and cable pull through superset, leg presses and calf raises to finish off with. Then it has a big back workout, and again there's pre-exhaustion work to that. And one arm cable rows, one arm lat pull downs is stuff that we found to be really useful. With one arm lat pull downs, because of that twist that you have at the end, where you can you have to position yourself on the bench in such a way that the cable that you're pulling down, if your gym is just like normal gyms, most gyms rather, unfortunately have those lat pull down machines where there's only one cable at the top. So you don't want a situation where the cable goes into an angle, because that tends to add unnecessary friction and take away tension. What you want is the cable to still be perpendicular to the floor from no matter what angle you look at it at. So you have to position yourself on the bench in a twisted manner where you might be straddling the bench sideways. And despite that, you want to, at the end of the movement, once you bring your elbow down, you want to twist backwards, you want to twist to your back, and that twist is what's going to cause a hard contraction in your lats. And I guarantee you that if you've not done this movement, you've never really felt your lats contracting like this. So on his main back day, he's got all one arm movements, one arm cable rows, one arm lat pull downs, one arm dumbbell rows. And again, these are movements that we think we can stack weight on right now, and if in the future this is not working out, we might swap one out. Like for example, one of the movements that Joe Bennett loves doing, which I found to be very useful, is these plate loaded machines, but you do a step back where you don't really sit on the machine, you stand but you jam yourself into the seat, and then you do a row. So it's called a step back machine row, and it's really useful. So we might even throw that in if this does not work out the way we want it to work out, or this leads to a point where Nate's no longer able to progress in terms of weight. You can't really keep adding weight indefinitely on anything. So we'll see what happens. Shoulders and biceps, same deal as always. The sequence of shoulders right now is we do pre-exhaustion work, and then we have side raises, then we have a barbell overhead press. Again, it's seated so we can concentrate on the shoulders, and then we have a machine shoulder press. And all this is subject to change. We might throw in one arm dumbbell overhead presses similar to what strongmen do as a circus dumbbell lift. We could throw that in. Of course, there's going to be no leg drive or anything like that. We want this to be both from a strength perspective as well as a bodybuilding perspective. You want your movement of dumbbell overhead presses or barbell overhead presses to not involve leg drive, because if you're doing it for shoulders, then you don't want any leg drive at all. So you got to keep that in mind. And bicep pre-exhaustion, he's going to be doing those heavy negatives, and then that's his workout. And the last workout of the week is going to be triceps, and we got a lot of isolation work, and then we got heavy tricep weighted dips at the end, because this is just something anecdotally that I found to be really useful to really blow up your triceps. You exhaust them and then you do weighted dips, because weighted dips is not something that you can keep adding weight to indefinitely again. So if you're able to really focus individually on small nuances of lifts, like right now we don't even have stuff like tricep kickbacks, because it's a really useless lift if you ask me, but we could do something really isolated like that. And one arm tricep push downs is similar to that, in the sense it really isolates your triceps, and you have to really focus hard on making sure that you have a hard contraction at the end, and you want to come up all the way to get that full stretch. And these types of small things can add up to a lot of fatigue, in the muscle. So when you shift from that to doing weighted dips, that's the next exercise. When you hop onto weighted dips, it's going to be heavy to really add a lot of weight to your body. But if you're able to, despite all that, your triceps are going to grow like gangbusters. So we want that. And then at the end, he's got seated tricep extensions on the dual cable machine, because it's a really nice finisher. And that's just like pump work, so to say, because weighted dips are going to be heavy. I've kept the rep range really low, 5 reps, but I've kept it up to 15, but very rarely am I going to insist on Nate going up to 15. I have no issues with him even doing heavy singles on this, as long as the form is good, technique is good, in sense he's going deep enough and the weight is like, and he's able to progress on weight. So we want to keep that in mind. So some of this stuff is like, it's important from a strength perspective long term, because at the end of the day, over a period of time, we want to see improvement on as many levels as we can. You can have improvement in the sense of like just being able to do more reps, or being able to do more sets with the same weight, or doing more weight with more sets and more reps. So there are 3 variables with that. Then you throw in density in the sense of time, and you want to improve in the sense that I could finish what workout I started in the beginning, which took me 1.5 hours. I'm able to finish it in 1 hour now, with more weight and more work done. So you want to improve in that way long term. So weighted dips is like, it's one of those movements which I will say, I hate using all these. I feel like this is one of those like quotes type thing that you can do, but like how squats, if you think of your arms as like legs, where for your legs the big movement is like a squat or a deadlift, then you can say that a weighted dip is like an upper body squat, and you want to attack it with some degree of wanting to get really strong on it overall. Because even if, for example, tomorrow Nate was to decide to, like right now Nate doesn't have bench or an overhead press as his primary maximal strength movement, but let's say in the future he would decide that, yeah, I want to do bench heavy and I want to get really strong on bench, then we might have to switch things up. But in that case, the lag that will be there between like having to the lag that will be there between switching from training bench press for from a bodybuilding or muscle gaining or hypertrophy perspective to doing it for just maximal strength, it's going to be considerably less in terms of weight being used, because you've already done heavy weighted dips throughout. So weighted dips will help, and I found weighted dips to be one of those like badass exercises that helps with both the overhead press and your flat bench press. So basically any big pressing movement that you have upper body wise is going to be aided with the weighted dip. So it's going to be kept in this disadvantage handicap position on tricep day, with the hope that in the future you get so strong at it that this handicap is no longer a handicap. Alright, that's all I have to say for today. If you guys have any questions, or you guys want to know certain things about Nate's training, follow him on Instagram. I'll link his account, and you guys will see his progress videos. Thanks a lot for watching this video, guys.